Hey guys, it's Cressida, and today I'm going to be doing my March week 2 reading vlog. So it is Sunday, March 8th. And last week was not a very great week reading wise. I did finish 3 books, but out of those 3 books, all of them were audiobooks and 2 of them were under 100 pages. But I did get pretty significantly into some of the books that I'm currently reading. So if you want to check out that reading vlog, I will link it up in the cards for you guys. But like always, I'm gonna start with the books that I'm currently reading. So first of all, my main audiobook right now is Dune by Frank Herbert. I am like about halfway through it now. So I read that much last week and I'm really enjoying this. Like I'm really enjoying it. It had a great part 1. I loved the ending to part 1 and I'm currently in part 2 and I'm really excited to see where this is going. So this is a classic sci-fi, but it reads very much like high fantasy. Like it has sort of the same sort of themes and social political things that high fantasy talks about is very similar in Dune as it is in like typical high fantasy book. It was a little bit of a surprise to me because I expected it to be a little bit more technology driven and it's not really, but I like that. And I'm really excited to continue on with this. Also, by the way, I love the audiobook. Like I ended up getting the audiobook from Audible because of how much I love the audiobook. And that's partially because one of my favorite audiobook narrators, Simon Vance, is the main narrator of the audiobook. There are multiple narrators and there are like sound effects and stuff, but like it's a really, really well done audiobook and I really enjoy it. Like when I'm reading it in my car, it has like almost surround sound effects. So sometimes I feel like there are like other cars and stuff around me that are making those noises, but no, it's the audiobook. The other book that I've been reading is A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. So this is technically my physical book. I do have access to the audiobook, so I've been switching between the two as well for this one, and I'm really enjoying this one. Like really, really loving it. Like I knew I was gonna love this book, mind you, like it was kind of obvious because it's a first law book. It's the first book in a new series set in the first law world, and it might be one of my favorite books in the first law series. I love these characters. They're absolutely wonderful. Like I like them more than some of the first original trilogy characters. I mean, yes, Glockta will always be my favorite, but his daughter is pretty freaking amazing also, and I'm really excited to see where this one is going. It is all the gritty, dark, like political machinations that I would expect from a first law book, and I'm super, super excited to continue on with this one as well. So the third book that I'm reading is Words of Radiance by Sanderson. I didn't make any progress in it last week, but I do plan on continuing on this week. Hopefully I can finish Dune pretty soon, as well as A Little Hatred, and then after I kind of finish those, because those are my 2 main focuses right now, I'll return to Words of Radiance. I just finished part 1, so I have to start part 2, which I want to just finish what I'm currently doing because I'm in the middle of way too many big books to just continue on with this one, but I will finish this one sometime this month. Hopefully I can make progress on it this week. Additionally, I've been doing my reread of the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. So my theme this month is middle grade for March. So my reread is Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So I'm reading it in the illustrated edition because I have the illustrated edition and I haven't read it yet, which by the way, oh my gosh, this illustrated edition is gorgeous. I'll show you that in a second. But I've also been at the same time tabbing the paperback book. I plan on doing like kind of an analysis of the Harry Potter series just because it's one of my favorite of all time, and I honestly don't fully understand why this series continues to be one of my favorite of all time, because I've literally like made myself try and not like the Harry Potter series, looking for flaws in it and all of that, and even though I find flaws in it and they annoy me and they frustrate me, I still end up loving these books more than anything. Kind of want to know why, so I'm analyzing it as well. And obviously you can see kind of where I am there. I read the first 5 chapters and I have so many tabs. Mind you, the first like few chapters of the first book are supposed to be like the most boring chapters in the entire series because I mean, we don't know anything about the Wizarding World yet. Like there's barely any like information given. We spend all this time with the Dursleys. I'm loving every second of it. Like, I don't know why. Like, I really don't understand. I think it's just the nostalgia in me, but I'm really enjoying this. Illustrated edition is gorgeous. I showed some of my favorite ones in my last vlog, so if you missed that, definitely check it out. but it has some beautiful illustrations. These are hilarious, of Dudley when he was a baby. That one is probably one of my favorite ones. It's in the first chapter where Hagrid is on the motorbike. That one is super sad with Harry in the cupboard, Dudley and the gorilla. Like, there's just tons of great stuff in here. Uncle Vernon rowing the boat. And I think this one has got to be one of my favorite ones. So this is Harry when he's looking at the snake. And what's really interesting on it is you can see the glass. Like, they used the reflection of the snake's habitat, so you can like see the reflection of the snake's habitat in the glass, which is really cool. Like, that is some really great illustrations there, and that one just blows me away. Like, I absolutely love that one. I thought I had seen all the illustrations because like when I first got it, I flipped through all of them and looked through all of them, but it's completely different reading it with the illustrations as opposed to just looking at the illustrations. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this. And lastly, I decided to start The Truth of Right Now by Carolee Cothron. So this is one of my unwrapped books for this month. So I figured since it's the beginning of week 2, I should probably start one of them before it gets too far into the month. This one is a YA contemporary novel. And so far, it's not my favorite. I'm actually really turned off by this book. I wanted to read something that was not fantasy or science fiction, because like I said, Dune reads a lot like fantasy right now. So I wanted to read something that was a little bit lighter, that wasn't fantasy, that wouldn't take up as much as my brain power. And I read the first 2 chapters of this book. The first chapter I was actually really intrigued by. The second chapter I was really turned off by. And I don't know if it's the character or if it's just like the idea. I was just really turned off by the second chapter, and I'm considering DNFing it. Like, I'm considering it, but at the same time, like, I kind of want to finish it just to see kind of what happens. So we'll see. I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna like this one. I have a feeling this could potentially be like one of my least favorite books, but I'm gonna push through it for now. I'm reading a bunch of other books that I absolutely love, so it's fine if I'm reading just like one that's not as good. Okay, so it's Monday, March 9th, and I changed my schedule up today, so I'm trying to figure out this filming schedule. It's kind of weird. And I did get a lot of reading done yesterday. I made a little bit of progress in Harry Potter. I made a little bit of progress in A Little Hatred, but for some reason, I've just not been in a fantasy mood today at all. So I decided to pick up my non-fantasy book, The Truth of Right Now, and I made a little bit of progress on it. I read 2 more chapters. There's still 2 points. I did more than 2 more chapters. It was a couple more chapters. There are still 2 points of view. One of them I'm slightly intrigued by. I'm less intrigued now because we got some information about it, which I'm not as interested in as I was before. And then the other point of view, I'm still really turned off by. I'm just not into this book. Like, I'm just not into it. I don't feel the connection between the characters. This is a YA contemporary romance, and I'm just not feeling it. So I decided to DNF this one. I know, my first DNF of the year. It's been a while since I've DNF'd a book, but like I said, I'm just not feeling it. I'm really turned off by one of the characters. So it's gonna be a DNF for me, and it's gonna be an unhaul because this was one of my wrapped books. So I will not be trying this one again, because I'm just gonna unhaul it. But for some reason, I'm just in this like mood that I wanna read pretty much anything that is not fantasy. So I had a few books that like I really wanna read. Like, there's one in particular that I really wanna read. It's coming in my Book of the Month box, which is coming in on Thursday, so I'll be getting it soon, and I will start it probably right when I get it. But until then, I had to read something that was on my shelf, and for some reason, I'm just like really into like Women's History Month this month, which is weird because I definitely expected to be way more into middle grade for middle grade March, but I'm just like flipping from last year. Last year in February I did romance, and in March I did middle grade, and this year I like did the opposite. I did Black History Month, and now I'm really feeling like the Women's History Month thing. I don't know what it's about. I just want to read things that are not fantasy or something like that. So I've been looking up like books that you should read for Women's History Month, and one of them that keeps popping up, I actually have on my shelf, which is The Poetry of Emily Dickinson. I bought this book last year. In high school, we had an entire semester in which we talked about Emily Dickinson and her poetry, and I absolutely loved it. I loved everything about Emily Dickinson and all of her poetry. It's been a while since I've studied her poetry, so I bought this last year so that I can revisit it. And as you can see, I've already started tabbing it because there's tons of poems in here that I absolutely love. And I'm right about there now, but my favorite poem by her is right there, so that's why I put a tab on it so I know where it is when I get to it, which I'm really excited for. Like, I just started this like an hour ago, and I'm almost done, but I'm really, really enjoying this. Like, she's probably my favorite poet that I've ever read, and I really enjoy her as a poet. And while I'm not like annotating it like I am with the Harry Potter series, I am tabbing it so I can go back and find like my favorite poems and go back and read them whenever I want to. She has some of like the most beautiful writing style. Like, I don't even know how to describe it other than it's poetry, and it actually sounds like poetry as opposed to modern poetry, which I feel like a lot of times with modern poetry, it's just like words with no punctuation. But this one, like, she actually does use punctuation, though the punctuation doesn't always make sense. But I really, really enjoy reading her poetry, and I'm gonna continue on with that tonight. I just finished the poetry of Emily Dickinson. So this is obviously not all of her poems because she wrote like 1,800 or something crazy like that. And this is only a small collection of them, but I really enjoyed it. Like, I kind of want to get her full collection now. Like in high school, we only read like a few of her poems, maybe like 20 or so. And I loved most of them. And here, like, you can see, like, I tabbed the ones I really loved, and there were a lot of them. I think my favorite one, I'm gonna read it to you guys. It's not a new one to me, like, I knew this one from before, but I still love it. And wow, I found the page like right away too. So obviously it's one that has already broken in a little bit. My favorite poem that's in the collection is this one. So for you guys who don't know anything about Emily Dickinson, she didn't name her poems. They're just unnamed, and this one is by far my favorite one. Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies. Too bright for our infirm delight. The truth's superb surprise. As lightning to the children's ease, with explanation kind, the truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. That is by far my favorite poem by her, and I absolutely love it. And she has a bunch of other great ones. The other one that I really, really love is also not a new one to me, but it's the one that starts with "Because I could not stop for death." That's a fantastic one as well. That one's a little bit longer, so I'm not gonna read you guys that one, but I absolutely really enjoyed this, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. Like, I don't often read poetry, but like this one, like, I just loved. I love so much. So like I said, I'm definitely considering getting her complete collection. I probably won't read it as fast as I did the short one, but it's something that I'm pretty interested in now. So it's still Tuesday, and I just finished A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. I absolutely love this. I think this might be my favorite book in the First Law series. Like, it just might be my favorite. And I really, really enjoyed it because I loved all of the new characters. I found them a lot more relatable than the old characters. Like, I didn't like them more as characters because they weren't as interesting, like, character development wise, but I loved them as people, if that makes sense. And I found them really relatable as opposed to the old characters, which I loved because of how almost unrelatable they were, but at the same time, they were very interesting and unique characters. And what I think I loved the most about this is we still got a lot of the old characters, especially the ones that I loved the most, but we got all the new characters, like main point of views, and we got to like spend time with both sets of characters, which I loved. And there are some great reveals in this one. I love the ending. The ending, it was great. I loved it. So yeah, I absolutely loved A Little Hatred, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. Tonight is a good night for me because I'm like really tired now, so I'm gonna be going to sleep. I didn't expect to finish 2 books. I definitely didn't expect for them to be both 5-star books because I've been reading for like almost a week and a half now in the month of March, and I hadn't had a single 5-star book yet. But I just got 2, and that makes me really happy. So it is Wednesday, March 11th. I just finished Dune by Frank Herbert. So I feel like this book, it has a lot to it that I really like, but I feel like I never like truly got into it. You know what I mean? I like the world building. I love the plot. I feel like there's so much to this book that I would have really loved if I had cared about the characters. But I never got to the point where I cared about the characters. And I also, like, it didn't feel like science fiction to me, which I went into it expecting more science fiction, and basically, it reads exactly like you would expect a high fantasy book would read, not a science fiction book. And that kind of turned me off from it a little bit too, which is surprising because, I mean, I love high fantasy, so I should have still loved this, but I don't think that's the reason why I had trouble with this one. I think mainly it was just because I was not attached to these characters. I never got into these characters. And even though they had some really interesting plot lines, I never cared for them. So like, I was really detached from the plot. I did really like the audiobook, I will say. I liked the way the audiobook was done, but the actual like writing style, I think, didn't really work for me as well as I wanted it to. Because of that, I ended up giving it 3.75 stars. I still think it's a great book. There's so much imagination and creativity that went into this book and this story. Like, it's a fantastic story, but I didn't enjoy the book as much as I wanted to. Like, I wanted to enjoy this way more than I did. That's how I felt about this. I don't think I'm going to be continuing on with the other books in the series because I've heard the other books aren't as good as this first one. This one, I felt like I was pretty satisfied with how it ended. I didn't particularly like the ending, which is why it's like 3.75 stars instead of 4 stars. I didn't kind of like the very end, that last scene or so. While I liked it, I was kind of annoyed by it at the same time. So that's why it was a little bit lower than I expected also, but I did enjoy it. Like, this is one where like, I kind of feel bad for giving it 3.75 stars because like, I know it's a good book. Like, I can see why so many people love it, but at the same time, it just wasn't one that I got super into. So I also got my Book of the Month box today, which will be featured in my book haul that's coming out soon. But one of the books that I got in the Book of the Month box is one that I'm pretty excited for, and that is Woman Is No Man by Itaf Rum. So this is a novel that is about a Palestinian woman. She's basically being courted to a bunch of men so that she'll be married, and the same thing kind of happened to her mother, and it kind of follows both of their lives. It's actually a pretty modern book because the girl was born in 1990, and it's following like both of their timelines. I already started this one, and I'm really enjoying it. Like, the beginning of this book was so hooking for me. I think part of the reason why I'm really into this is because for some reason, I just haven't been feeling to read fantasy books this week. I don't know why, and this is a contemporary book, and I don't know, it has a very unique perspective that I've never read before, and I'm really excited for it. So it is Thursday, March 12th, and I've made a lot of progress on Woman Is No Man by Itaf Rum. I am about halfway through it now, right there. And I'm loving this so far. Like, I got super into this book the moment I picked it up. I love the characters. I love the situation. It's such a unique story. And for it to be set in a time period that I actually lived in a society that I actually live in. I mean, I don't live in Brooklyn, New York, but I've been to Brooklyn. Like, I've been to New York. I live in the United States, and to see such a different America than what I'm used to, I'm eating this book up. I absolutely love it, and I'm really excited to finish this book. It has such an interesting storyline, and it has 2 different storylines because it has the mother as well as the daughter. Their storylines have a lot of parallels to it that I really like, and I'm really interested in seeing where it's gonna go because there's a teensy little bit of a mystery involved now that I'm really excited for. Overall, like, I'm really into this book. Like, I'm really into just the idea of it and the uniqueness of the voice and all of that, and I'm really enjoying it. Also, it's very much of a feminist book, and I liked that aspect of it. Like, I knew that's what it was gonna be about because I picked this book up for Women's History Month, and at the Book of the Month Club website, it says specifically that it's a feminist book, but even so, I didn't really know what to expect going into it. I thought it might be a little bit more in your face, and I wouldn't like it as much, and while it is obviously a feminist book, like, obviously so, it's coming from a pretty justified perspective in my opinion, and I'm really enjoying this, like really enjoying this. Last night, I also did make a bit of progress on Words of Radiance by Brandon Sanderson. I didn't want to pick up a new book because I was like super into that one, but I wanted something that was a little bit later, right before bed, so I decided to pick up this one. I read like 5 or 6 chapters. Like, I read quite a bit. Like, it was at least an hour and a half's worth of reading, but that's only like 5% of the entire book because this is ridiculously long, and I'm enjoying this one so much. Like, I forgot how much I was enjoying this book. So for a while, I think I'm just gonna leave this one as my like main fantasy book because for some reason I'm just not feeling to pick up anything new fantasy wise. So I'll continue on with my contemporary / historical, and I'll continue on with Words of Radiance because I'm definitely really enjoying this one. Also, by the way, for those of you who've read Words of Radiance or know about the series, did any of you guys guess that Kaladin is younger than Adeline? Because I was totally caught off guard with that. Like, I don't know if the author mentioned it previously that Kaladin is actually that young, but I pictured Kaladin as like 35 or something like that, but apparently he's only like early 20s. Like, Adeline is supposed to be like 24, and his brother Renarin is 19, and Kaladin is somewhere between those two ages, which that completely blows my mind. Like, I totally like pictured Kaladin as older than me and Adeline as younger. Obviously, I pictured Adeline is like a teenager, like an 18-year-old high school teenager, but he's not. And yeah, it's just, I was just completely thrown off guard by that. But I can see like where the author is going with that. Anyways, I'm really enjoying this and I'm excited to continue on as well. So it is Thursday night and I just finished A Woman Is No Man by Taff From. I really, really enjoyed this. I do think there were sections of it that I felt like it was a little bit repetitive, especially with like the younger girls just like in her mind, just thinking the same thing over and over again. But the overall like story of it, I really enjoyed. I liked the parallel plot lines. I really liked the way it ended because it has an almost hopeful feel at the end, but then you remember what happened and it was just kind of like, it's not hopeful. Like, it's actually really sad. And I liked that just feeling towards the end. So I ended up really enjoying this and I ended up giving it 4.75 stars. Okay, so it's Saturday, March 14th. Last night I decided to pick up A Hero's Guide to Deadly Dragons by Cressida Cowell. This is for middle grade March and it's the 6th book, I believe. Yeah, the 6th book in the How to Train Your Dragon series, which I'm on the 6th book, obviously. By the way, for middle grade March, this actually meets all of the challenges, which I didn't realize when I picked this book up or when I chose this book. First of all, it has illustrations. So it's a book with illustrations. It's a book about books because this book is specifically referring to a book within this world called The Hero's Guide to Deadly Dragons, which is like the main point of this book. It's set in another country because this is set during the Viking times. So it's set somewhere in Europe. I don't know exactly where. I think somewhere in Scandinavia it should be, right? This series has been adapted to screen as well. So it's a book to screen adaptation as well. So yeah, it fits all of the categories. Oh, except for mysteries. There's no mysteries in here. My bad. I missed one of them, but it's fine. It fits all of the other categories, which I think is just kind of hilarious. Now I'm gonna have to read a middle grade mystery book. I didn't really plan to follow any of the challenges. I just wanted to read middle grade books, but like, I still managed to hit it. So yeah, just saying. Anyways, I enjoyed this book. I think like when it comes to series like this that are really long, it's very episodic and there are going to be episodes that are not as interesting as other episodes. And I felt like this was just fun and it was great. What I wanted it for was just to relax me before I went to bed last night, and it really worked to do that and I enjoyed it. It was just a fun, cute story. I don't think it was particularly better than any of the other books in the series, and I ended up giving it 3.25 stars. But I did like that it was about libraries and things like that, which I didn't expect from the series because, I mean, reading is not a thing in these books. Like, it's not a thing at all. So yeah, that was kind of weird, but I did enjoy it. So when I finished that audiobook, I had to start a new one. I decided to continue on with my middle grade March selections, and I picked up The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen. So this was actually the book that you guys voted on for me to read in the month of March, and I am loving it so far. Like, I don't know what I expected going into this book, like, because I didn't have any expectations of it. I didn't know anything about this book. And I guess the title is really all you need to know because it just tells you everything you need to know about the book. And it's great so far. Like, I'm really, really enjoying it. I'm excited to see where it's going. Like, I have an idea of where this book is gonna end, but I wanna see how it gets there because it really intrigues me. And I'm really interested in seeing where this series eventually goes because I feel like based off of where I think this book is going to end, the second book in the series could potentially be really good. So yeah, I'm really enjoying The False Prince right now. Like, I didn't expect that at all, but you guys apparently are really great at choosing books for me to read because I almost always just love the poll books that you guys choose. So I'm really glad that you guys chose that one, and I'm really excited to see what happens. So I just finished The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen. This book was so good. I really enjoyed every second of it. Like, I kind of wish I had bought this book because I feel like I want to continue on with the series. Like, I'm definitely going to continue on with the series. In fact, I'm probably just going to go ahead and borrow the next book in the series if it's available from my library. And maybe not start it right away because I just read like 2 books back to back today that are middle grade books and I want to like start something different. But I really enjoyed it. Like, the ending really surprised me. Like, there was a reveal kind of near the climax or like right before the climax of the book that I like totally saw coming and I was really excited for, and then it happened and I was really happy about that. But like the actual ending, there are some things that surprised me about it, which I wasn't expecting. So I really enjoyed that and I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. So it is Saturday night and I think I've been reading this without updating you guys. But this week I've made a ton of progress on Words of Radiance by Sanderson. Like, if this book was a normal sized book, I would have finished this book this week. But since this book is like ginormous and is like equal to 4 like normal sized books, I haven't finished it yet. But I am right there now. Like, I am a significantly chunk of the way through. Like, both sides are almost equal in thickness now, which is great. I'm really enjoying this. Like, really enjoying this. I've heard that there's like a love triangle in the 3rd book, and I think I know what it is, like based on what just happened in this book. I think I know what it is, and I think I'm gonna like it. Like, I think I'm gonna like it, and I really hope that I do. But you never know, maybe I won't. But I'm really enjoying this so far. I do have to say, I'm a little surprised that there aren't more new characters, because I feel like it's a lot of the same characters from the 1st book, which is fine. I love the characters, they're great, and I'm loving the characters more the more that I read them. I love Shallan, by the way. Her section in this book is great. I love her whole story arc. I think I like Adolin again, because there was a while where I was really annoyed by Adolin. And of course, Dalinar and Kaladin, just all of them are amazing. And yeah, I'm really enjoying this so far. So yeah, hopefully I will get more into it. I think part of the reason was I wasn't really feeling to pick up any new fantasy this week because I was listening to a lot of more like contemporary stuff, and I was doing weird stuff this week. I don't know. Because of that, whenever I did feel like just falling back on something, since I didn't want to open up a new fantasy book, I just went to Words of Radiance, which is why I made so much progress on this week. And it's kind of weird that I just like didn't mention it to you guys. But yeah, that one is going really well for me. I also made a little bit more progress on my reread of the Harry Potter series. You can kind of see where I am. I'm not using a bookmark for this one because the tabs are pretty obvious as to where I am. Of course, I'm enjoying this. Like, I think part of the reason why I'm not enjoying other books as much as I typically would is because of how much I'm enjoying reading this book, which is weird. Like, this is my least favorite book in the Harry Potter series, and it is like blowing my mind with how good it is. Even though like this is ostensibly like arguably not that good of a book, but I have the tabs to prove it of how good it is. Part of the reason why I'm really enjoying this is because of the illustrated edition. So let me pull that out. This baby is gorgeous. I thought I had flipped through and looked at all of the illustrations in it. Turns out I didn't. There's a couple of illustrations that I really like from the recent chapters that I read. This one caught me off guard. It is gorgeous. So this is the ghosts of Hogwarts. This is when they're waiting in like the chamber to go into the Great Hall for the first time for the welcome feast, and all the ghosts just like burst in on them. It is such a gorgeous illustration. I did not expect this. I don't know how I didn't see this when I was flipping through this book, but this one caught me completely off guard and I absolutely love this one. I think there was another one. Oh, I hadn't seen this one before. I actually don't like this one as much because the Sorting Hat in my head looks like the one from the movies, which I like better than this one. This one. Oh, this one's so great. I really love the ghost pictures for some reason. Like, I think the ghosts are just so well done. And those are all the illustrations that I got for you so far. And I think those are the only 2 books I'm currently reading, and it's Saturday night. So it's time for me to summarize kind of what I did this week. So I actually had a really productive reading week, which is surprising because I was also super busy at work this week, but I got a lot of reading done. I ended up finishing 6 books this week, and I think it's crazy that I actually own physical copies of 5 of them. And only one of them is recent purchase, so that means my unread physical TBR is going down pretty well. So the book that I didn't own that I finished this week was The False Prince by Jennifer A. Nielsen, which was earlier today I finished that book. I was super surprised by it. It's probably one of my most surprising books of the year so far because it was fantastic. Like, it was so good. I don't know what I was expecting going to this book, but I wasn't expecting to be as drawn in and attached to the storyline and the characters as much as I was, and I loved it. For some reason, it gives me similar vibes to Realm of Nights by Jennifer Ann Davis, and also to like Prince of Thorns by Mark Lawrence, which is like a weird combination because Realm of Nights is like a YA, like super like romance heavy fantasy book, and then Prince of Thorns is like a very grimdark anti-hero adult fantasy book. But for some reason, like if you mash those 2 books together, The False Prince is what I get out of that, even though like the storylines are nothing alike. It's just like the atmosphere and the ideas, I guess. I don't know. I really enjoyed it, and I ended up giving it 4.5 stars. I also finished Dune by Frank Herbert this week, so this one was a little bit disappointing for me. I do think it's a great book. I love the world building here. I love the idea of the story. I love the storyline. I also really loved the audiobook. The audiobook is so well done, like so well done. It had a lot of background noises that threw me off at times, but like the production was so beautiful. Like I would like stop and just listen to the audiobook, just like sit on my couch and listen to the audiobook. I was a weirdo sitting alone in my house, like by myself. I really enjoyed that aspect of this book. That being said, I had some difficulties just getting attached to some of the characters, so I feel like I wasn't as into this book as I should have been with how like interesting this story is otherwise. So I ended up giving it 3.75 stars. I also read The Poetry of Emily Dickinson by Emily Dickinson, obviously. This is not her full collection, it's just a small collection of her poems, which I got because in high school we did a whole semester on poetry, and Emily Dickinson was one of my favorite poets from that section that we did in high school. So I wanted to read more of her work and see if I still liked her, and I loved it. Like, oh my gosh. This was one of the best poetry collections that I've ever read. Now, mind you, I haven't read a whole lot of poetry collections, but I absolutely love her style and the emotion that she brings into her poems. I really enjoyed it. Like, I got to the point when, like, really early on where I was just like, I have to like bookmark some of these poems that I really like. So I just started tabbing all of them, and some of my favorite poems are in this book. And now I really want to get her complete collection so that I can read all of her poems, which she has like almost 1,800 poems, which is a lot. But I think that I would really enjoy it because I really enjoyed this set of poems, and I ended up giving this one 5 stars. I also finished The Heroes Guide to Deadly Dragons by Cressida Cowell, which I actually finished earlier today as well. This is the 6th book in the How to Train Your Dragon series, which is following the character named Hiccup Prentice Haddock III, who is going to be the legendary warrior chief of the Harry Hooligans. But right now, he is a young boy who is very awkward and small for his age, and he goes through tons of adventures. And this is the 6th book in the series, so obviously I've read the first 5 books in the series. I enjoyed it. Like, I enjoyed being in this world. I enjoyed the writing style because it has a very fun, lighthearted, like comical sort of writing style, which I like. I do have to say that I didn't enjoy this one as much as some of the other books in the series, and sometimes I feel like these books are a little bit like each one's a single plot point rather than a whole book. But I did enjoy it, and I ended up giving it 3.25 stars. I also finished Woman Is No Man by Etaf Rum. So this book I was really excited for. I don't know why, but as soon as I saw this book, I was just like, I have to read it. Like, I wanted to read it so bad. And thankfully, I ended up really enjoying it. It follows 3 generations of Arab women living in America and kind of what they go through. It has 2 timelines that have very parallel events going on, which I really enjoyed, switching back and forth between the 2 timelines and seeing how the mother and the daughter were very similar in many ways, but also very different in other ways. It was just a very unique voice, and it depicted a part of America that I would have never seen if it wasn't for this book, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I also really loved the ending. I loved the ending. It had a very bittersweet feel to it, and I just really enjoyed that aspect of it, and I ended up giving it 4.75 stars. And of course, I finished A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. This is probably one of my favorite books that I've read this entire month. It was so good. I was so excited for this book too, by the way. I loved all of the new characters for the First Law world. They were all great. I don't think they were as unique as the first series, but I did enjoy all of them in a way that I wasn't expecting, and I liked being able to see some of the old characters come in and even have points of views every once in a while, and I just loved being back in this world. Like, I absolutely loved it. I cannot wait for the next book in the series, The Trouble with Peace, to come out this year, and I'm so excited for it. Like, I'm so ready for it, because this was amazing. And of course, I ended up giving it 5 stars. So that is all I have for you guys. I hope you guys enjoyed watching. I post videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern time, so consider subscribing. I also post bonus videos, so if you want to be notified as soon as I upload, you can click that little bell icon. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up to support my channel. All social media links are in the description down below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.